Hi everyone, this is Matthew Rhodes and I'm joined by Matlock Town manager Paul Phillips. Paul, just having a look at the last game which took place yesterday, and it was another victory for Matlock in the pre-season tie against Ossett United, a 2-1 victory. I'm going into this game a little bit blind because I couldn't make it to the game myself, but just in general, how was the final workout for your players? What did you learn from it?
It was good, realistic of what we'll get going into next week's games. Physical test, quite blood and thunder. People got chances in the game because of certain circumstances. Some took them, some didn't. But I thank Ossett for a game. I think it was the perfect scenario looking at what we're going to go against Ashton, Basford, Hyde. It was fast, really competitive game, and Ossett are a decent team. They asked us a few questions with probably a makeshift couple of players. Again, the squad comes into it. Obviously, you've seen we only had two or three, including a keeper on the bench, but give people a chance to get minutes in the tank and try and play their way into my reckoning coming starts on Saturday at Ashton.
Yeah, the match, it was another example of where the Gladiators went behind, but then have come back to end up winning the game. So I was sort of like on the plus side, it's obviously showing, a lot of resilience within the team, but it's just another example of maybe a slow start to the game for Matlock and where you're going behind. Is that still a bit of a cause for concern just with a week to go before the season properly starts?
Yeah, I think it's my job now to. Last year we built ourselves. We didn't score a hell of a lot of goals, but we sort of made ourselves hard to beat and scored goals the other end when we got the opportunities. I think if you look yesterday, we had an out-and-out winger playing as a left wing back. Al Byrne was obviously is your right wing back, who's a perfect one to go on there. But I think we've sort of to and fro with back three partnerships. Obviously, Sam Qualt's there, but for me, when you take Reece Kendall out of that left wing back role, it sort of makes you a little bit more vulnerable at the back. But on the other flip side of the coin, I think having Jez playing in that position, or whoever plays in that position, who's a bit more attack minded, it gives you a little bit more going forward on the front foot. So it's down to me to get the balance right, making sure that when we go into these games, when we need to push on, we get the right people in the right places.
Yeah, and in the when the starting lineups were announced for the Ossett game, what one name which would have cropped up, well, for many out of nowhere, would have been Craig King, and it appears as if he's now actually fully back at the club after a very brief spell at Frickley Athletic. So will be a bit of a surprise to some. Can you just go into detail, just sort of how that came about? Did Kingy approach you to say it's not working at Frickley, and would it be possible to come back to Matlock, or did you approach him?
No, Kingy approached Wildy on, I think it was Thursday from Friday morning, just saying that it hadn't gone where he wanted it to do, unfortunately, at Frickley. We asked him then if that was the case, we'd take him back in, but he needed to do it the right way, as we believe in. He spoke to Frex at Frickley, who sort of dealt with it amicably. And then he was obviously in the squad yesterday. Again, Kingy knows the situation with us, that we want to push on. He's got to play well and he's got to keep fit to stay in that squad, stay in that 11. And like I said, when he left the club, he was always going to be welcome back if he ever wanted to come back. He was invited back to come back pre-season. And he's a great lad, been a great player. But obviously now it's a matter of making sure he fits in what we want to do and push on. And listen, we're not getting no disrespect to the lad, we're not getting Craig King from 7-8 years ago because we wouldn't have a chance to sign him because he was that good of a player. But he's a different kind of player, like we're seeing today, a lad that's going to bring experience and a different dimension to the dressing room, and someone that's been a local lad playing for a local club. So, listen, King is a great lad, but he needs to make sure that his standards are lifted and that he's pushing on as well as the team's pushing on to stay in and around it.
Yeah, and obviously with just a week to go, just under a week to go now before the season properly starts, there's been quite a bit of focus in terms of the squad size. I know you've faced a few questions about this before, and you're probably already sick of this, but what in with just a few days to go, what's sort of like the latest in terms of any more additions to the squad? So we've had the sort of saga in terms of what's happening with the loan signing. What's the latest on that? And also, is there any chance that any of the trialists that you've had in the pre-season games, is there any chance that they could be a permanent addition to the Matlock squad ahead of the new season?
Starting with the loan lad, obviously whatever happened to him, obviously was out of our control, but obviously the club, Rotherham, have dealt with it the way they feel that is appropriate, which will be the best way for the lad. For me, it's still not dead in the water. I'm hoping that we can still resurrect that come early part, middle of next week, and it'd be a massive plus if we can get that one and done dusted. But obviously, it's all about his health coming first before anything else. The trialists, obviously, Joe Bunny was one trialist. Mo Wally is now signed for Warrington. We didn't offer Mo Wally anything. It was a case of he come in. We didn't think he was any better than we had, so it was a waste of time in sort of making that leap. Joe Bunny didn't know which way he wanted to go. He was to and fro-ing, and in the end, we've sort of said, if you're not going to buy into what we want to do, then I think it's best for all parties that you go your separate way. That's just football. I wish him all the best. Good player, great lad. But we built too good of a squad and too good of a group to make it an individual game. We're all about the players that we have in that dressing room buying into what we set out. And for me, if you don't do that, then it's not going to be a good ending. There was no trials involved yesterday. Squad-wise, I think we're probably 2 or 3 short. Obviously, John Pritchard's come in, not done what we thought he'd do. Ross isn't available because of the COVID till Thursday. Same with John Wafula. Chippendale's been obviously it's not a major thing, but he had a bit of a tight groin, so we've sort of nursed him along. He should be okay to train come middle of the week. But listen, the squad size is, I wouldn't say it's a massive problem. The problem we've got is obviously the environment that we're in at the moment. You never know who's going to have to isolate. You never know who's going to get this horrible disease that's going about. So we've got to make sure we cover our bases. As we was driving home from the game yesterday, we was working on 2 or 3 things to try and get people in. And we will do that this week. We're not hiding behind that. I still think we're maybe a midfielder, a forward, which we're trying to sort out, and maybe a central defender short of where we want to be. But like I've said all along, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, I'm not bringing players in just to bring them in sake. I want to bring players in that are good enough to take us forward. I think it's a false environment when you bring players in and you take players out. It's got to be the right fit for us and the right fit for the club.
Yeah, just looking back, because the pre-season stuff is now come to an end. Quite a busy schedule, 9 games overall, but it's been really, really good for Matlock. 8 wins from 9. Just in terms of, cause obviously you've had a few pre-seasons now, not just in charge of Matlock, but for different clubs. In terms of like the pre-seasons that you've had before as a manager, how encouraged have you been by this one? Just in terms of, so pre-season can be a little bit difficult to analyse, but in terms of the pre-seasons that you've had as a manager before, how satisfied are you with the one that you've just had with Matlock?
Yeah, listen, I'm more than satisfied. I think we've played better against the better teams when we've been asked the better questions. Your Chesterfields, obviously, that was a great test against probably the best team that we've faced. Boston, Mansfield, Derby. We got asked a lot of questions there, and I feel my team, when we're up against it, we see the best of us. In the other games, no disrespect to the lower teams, your Clipstones, your other teams, we sort of huffed and puffed, but always found a way to win. And that's a good trait to get in. I don't think it was great against Clipstone with the lads that we had out. We had a couple of trialists against Sheffield last week. I just thought we we sort of did enough yesterday. Again, with some of the players we had missing, and this is no disrespect to Ossett, we sort of did enough to win the game. I think we missed. Obviously, Chippendale's going to be a massive miss to anyone. Ross Anna causes a lot of problems yesterday. Wafula, when he's fully focused, gives us that a little bit of drive. So, for me, it's been a good pre-season. It's been a strange one because we've come into it probably playing 3 or 4 friendlies beforehand, and I feel this group, when obviously the competitive edge comes, you'll see a different gear to all of us, including myself. I think it's the friendlies now are finished, which is great. We need to get into something that we can cut our teeth into and be playing for points and playing for pride and playing to move on in competitions. And I think you'll see a different edge to these lads.
Yeah, so just finally, so obviously Matlock's next game, I've been waiting a long time to say this. It's been, Christ, about 8-9 months. The next game is a competitive game away at Ashton United in the MPL Premier Division. Just firstly, sort of what kind of game are you expecting from Ashton? Who are their sort of key players? But just also, do you think that now, with the kind of players that you've got, do you think that now that the competitive stuff is finally going to be back, that automatically the players will all go up 1, 2, maybe even 3 more gears than what we've seen in pre-season?
Yeah, I think that's the way of the beast. I think if you look at the lads, it's like a boxer having a training camp for 14 weeks. Sometimes it can go on too long and you get burnt out. For me, I think you'll see a different beast when it comes to next Saturday, hopefully. Ashton would be a massive game. Spent a lot of money. Obviously, got a new chairman, good backing, good management team, some good players. Just signed Jack Redshaw from York City, who's a prolific scorer at this level. They've got Rains at the back, Thompson at midfield, Sheridan in midfield. So I think it'll be a tough game. I think it was one of the favourites to go up last year, and I think it'll be a good test for us. Even more so that it's away from home, but listen. We've got them, we've got Baseford, we've got Hyde, 3 very good teams to start the week off. So let's hope we can get points on the board in them 3. Let's hope we can get 1 or 2 more bodies in to supplement the lads who are already there. If we get the midfielder that we want, it'll be a massive scoot for the club, which we're working on. Obviously, the forward coming from a league club, another decent addition. And for me, if we get them 2 in, we've still got time to work on maybe getting a centre half in. But if you have to go into with the lads that we've got at the club already, I won't have any downside to it. We'll keep working hard, but we've got enough in this group to go and get a good start at Ashton and hopefully Baseford.
Okay, lovely stuff, Philo. Good to hear from you as always. And I'm just relieved that we're finally going into some competitive games. So all that's left to say is just best of luck for the season ahead.
Thank you. I hope we see you Saturday after your short illness.
Yes, definitely.